Welcome to another episode of Gentle Power. This is our first episode where we have a guest in person in our living room, David Carvalho. I want to say it in Portuguese. Carvalho?
Yeah, you got it right.
Okay.
Yep, everybody else says Carvalho, but yep, you nailed it.
Eu não falo português. And I don't even know where to begin. We were thinking that should we do your bio, but you have an insane career and you have your hands full of so many things. So we will let you do your own bio.
Nice. Well, yeah, I won't get into everything. I think I'll just mainly focus on what we're doing now. I've been a DJ for the last 2 decades. I started a booking agency about 15 years ago, booking DJs here in San Francisco. I've been tightly in the tech world for about 20 years. I did Google's IPO party in 2001. 2014, I did Facebook's IPO party. So I've kind of been in the tech world as well as the music world for a long time.
You're going to have to do our IPO party too. At some point.
Sign me up. This is what I do.
And
there is so much more.
You said you were the Giants?
Yeah, so I used to DJ for the Giants. I used to DJ.
People who don't know what Giants are, which it was me a few years ago.
I think it might only be you who don't know who the Giants are here in San Francisco. Garretta's not a sports person, but also you originate from overseas.
Now I know. But just in case there's someone who lives under a rock.
Got it. So San Francisco Giants are our baseball team out here. It's a great baseball team. We have a bunch of world championships under our belt. So I was DJing during that time period. Super exciting. I also used to play some home games for the Warriors when they were in Oakland, and then also for the Raiders as well. And then it looks like I'm coming back to Chase Center to start doing home games again for the Warriors.
Wow. That's even for someone who doesn't know anything about sports like me, that just sounds insane. That's so cool.
Yeah, they have this new splash bar that's open, and they're really trying to build something fun.
Wow. Now I want to go. I have a thing for stadiums. Well, Alex knows. When we lived in Boston, I lived in Boston for 11 years. Very quickly, like a detour. The Harvard Stadium is open to the public and it's gorgeous. It looks like almost like a Roman stadium, and everyone can go and work out unless they have games. And so I used to go a lot and run up and down the stairs. So can you invite us to?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Absolutely.
When we first moved here, when Garretta first saw Oracle Park, she's been scheming ever since how to get unlimited access there, simply just to go work out there and use the stairs. So if you have an in, let us know.
Give me a few weeks. Yeah.
Just a few weeks, that's it.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to share the first time I met you, David. So I was DJing an event here in San Francisco, and you were listed as the point of contact.
Mm-hmm.
This was, I think it was the first tech giga-party. So it was this massive party where you brought, I think during the day it was a conference, there were investors, founders, startups, and at night we took over a really, really large club in Temple. But your name kept popping up as the point of contact, and you all actually helped set up the decks because I was doing that silent disco. There were a lot of technical difficulties, and I remember that was the first time I met you. But ever since then, most things, very, very often, I'll come across different events, or I will be DJing, or Garretta's going to a recruiting event, and your name is always there. Like, you have your fingers in so much that's happening here in San Francisco. And we also were in the same Burning Man camp together.
Yes, we were. Titanic's End.
We were next door neighbors in our shift pod, in our tents, in our tent city.
You were great neighbors, by the way. Yeah. I'll camp with you anytime.
But that's actually where we wanted to start, because you do so much, especially at the intersection of music, DJing, tech, investor things happening in San Francisco. So
Robots fighting. We should talk about this shortly.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely get into that. Maybe we could plug it. But tell us how you ended up where you are today and everything that you do. Where you've built such an interesting, unique career that overlaps across tech, across music, the social scene here in San Francisco. How did you end up here?
I think I first fell in love with the music scene in the late 90s in San Francisco. There was an explosion of house music here. It was sort of a hub in the world, and I immediately fell in love with electronic music. I was going to school up in Northern California at the time, and I just decided, do I take this education and get a 9 to 5, or do I try to start something fun? And I was DJing at a local bar at the time, and I just decided to go for the DJ thing. And I had another job at the time, so it took me about 5 years to really get full-time DJ access. But ever since then, it's just kind of been just a fun game that I've been playing. I didn't mean to start the agency. I just was getting more gigs for days that I can get booked at. So I would call my friends, hey, do you want to take this gig? And then that slowly turned into an agency, and probably have 20 DJs now and a sound team, and photo booths and all that fun stuff. So that's been a large part of my life up until about, 5 years ago, when I started to go hard in the tech space.
Yeah. So what are you involved with right now? 'Cause I can't keep track. You do so much, and would love to start getting into what type of negotiations do you see? And then we have some more spicy questions
Yeah,
after
of
that.
course. Right now, my sole focus is on this fight this Friday. We're doing
Okay, who's fighting whom?
well, we have Justin Kahn, who's the co-founder of Twitch, going to be fighting Hyder Emil, who's an 11-1 MMA fighter. They're the first people in the world to control these VR-controlled robots that are going to be fighting in the ring. These robots are brand new as well. They're built for combat, and they last 30 minutes, and it's going to be a wild fight this weekend. The older models usually last about 3 minutes, and then they overheat. So this is a whole new game, and this is going to be a long fight, and
Wow.
everybody's really excited.
Who built the robots?
Robots were built by Rec. I don't know if they actually built them, but they fully coded every single piece inside, from the AI software to the VR controlling to the spatial stuff, and it's just absolutely mind-blowing to see them working in the warehouse.
That's super cool. So were there any negotiations involved in this process that you can talk about? Okay, so who are the players? And if you can just share anything you can.
All right. So I think this is a great story to start off with, because we had a robot company that we were going to do. So we brought a robot to our first Giga Party in January.
Sorry, what's a Giga Party?
I'm sorry. The Giga Party is this party that we throw that's half summit, tech summit, half party, and half of, I don't even know. So there's 3 halves to this thing. It's quite
how math works.
it's unexplainable. I've never really seen a party like this, but we have investors that come in, and we have startups, and exactly. And then we kind of create an area for deal flow to happen. We don't make people wear name tags or lanyards. We just kind of organically let people meet. We have panels where people talk about the explosion of AI, how to invest in certain startups, etc. We'll bring in people like the mayor, the chief of police. We've had the Fiona Ma, and then we'll have some MMA celebrities and some other folks coming in. But we're looking at least 2,000 people this Friday.
So this is your
our third one.
Giga Party, and Alex DJ'd both, and this one. So
he's locked in. He's part Giga Parties.
Yeah, we are very flattered that you know so many DJs in the area, and then you picked Alex.
I mean, I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Your energy and your passion comes through, and I think as a DJ who's been doing this a long time, there's a lot of DJs who are maybe jaded or didn't really, they're not where they want to be, and to have fresh energy and excitement and just seeing you guys DJ, and you're really good, and so like all of that is like boom, that's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I remember the first Giga Party, I did the silent disco on the rooftop. The second one, I was in the basement. This time I'm doing the silent disco again, but it's always super fun to DJ for your events. We've talked about DJing on our podcast a lot, but we've never really put links of any of my DJing or whatnot. I think we should start actually maybe showing some of that, because people are like, oh, what does Alex look like when he's DJing? And
Yeah. So I think you should have a DJ card in your email, by the way. So
That's true.
We sent it over last night for you.
The initial vision for this podcast was part personal life chit chat, part negotiations, and then part Alex DJing. Do you remember this?
Hey, we got to get Alex DJing on here.
Yeah.
I think the negotiations on this one were very interesting, to say the least, and I think a lot of people can learn from this. The first time we had a robot, I invited a bunch of media folks, and They didn't really tell me what the robot was all about. They just said the robot DJs. So the robot DJ'd, and the next day we get War Robot DJs, California nightclub,
Yeah.
and news articles like Vice. And
Yeah.
so I learned my
And
lesson.
TV, I think.
It was everywhere. It had millions of impressions, and I learned the lesson to make sure I get talking points before I introduce anybody to anybody. But that robot sort of got us into the robotics, and we've been dealing with at least 4 robotics companies now. We had this robot company. They decided to pull out the last couple weeks, and we went into a frenzy. Like, what are we going to do? We have this big fight. I have no fear when it comes to reaching out to people.
Yeah.
So I literally found the guy in San Francisco who had combat robots, and I found him on Twitter. His name's Sixliv. He's the CEO of Rec Robots, and I hit him up. And I just literally gave him the spiel, told him about it, showed him some old Gigaparty footage, and he was very interested. I had a phone call with him. We worked out a deal where they would get a percentage of sponsorship money. They would get a percentage of whatever they sell, or actually they get all the money of what they sell, sponsor the robot and stuff. And then we give the press and we invite people and we get the exposure for them, and then we throw the event. So it's kind of like we supply them with the arena in the area, and then they provide us with the show. We're going to live stream it. And then just that's sandwiched in between all the expos and talks. And then we have a giant party with, I think 16 DJs, including Alex here.
Yeah. Got it. So let me go back just one step. You said a robotics company you had signed up with before, they pulled out a couple weeks before the event. Was that not already baked into the contract, or had you guys not signed the contract yet?
So contracts are really weird with this. There's a time to present the contract and there's a time not to. I think especially when you're dealing with bigger budgets and you're dealing with large companies, and there's a lot of competition, and there's a lot of people who are wanting to do the same thing. You kind of have to do some free stuff in the beginning. Like, I think a contract will scare people off sometimes. I think they feel like, oh wait, we haven't even got to the nitty gritty and I'm already signing some sort of like LOI, letter of intent. Whereas the way I do things is I speak with them and get a relationship going first, finding what their needs are, what they are actually looking for in value. And then can I provide that value? If I can, then we go ahead and start with a letter of intent, and then we move on to contracts and agreements.
Okay. So the one that pulled out, there was no contract yet.
No, there was no, it was just talks.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And like I said, that also works in my benefit as well, because then I'm not locked in.
Yeah, you're not locked in as well.
So we always do contracts. We always do agreements. It's all about timing for me.
Yeah.
And it could depend. I book for Dreamforce, for example.
Yeah. Dreamforce is Salesforce's largest.
It's the largest convention in the United States.
Yeah.
It's funded by Salesforce. I think they spent $180 million producing this thing at Moscone Center. And I book all the DJs for all the Moscone areas. I think we book about 6 DJs for the whole week. And something like that requires phone calls, meeting with people, Zoom phone calls, them explaining to you their ideas. You're going down a really long path of negotiations before you're even signing anything. And it's more of on their side of things because they have so many people involved, so many questions. But we rarely get an agreement or contract going right away. There always is some back and forth. Yeah.
And earlier you talked about how you first explore what their needs are, what their priorities are, and then also you start off with either you providing free value or seeing if you can do something for them first. How does that part look like before then you get into the actual terms of a contract and signing anything?
Got it. I think the first thing I want to know is, what are you looking for? People are looking for different things. Some people want money. Some people want fame. Some people want exposure. So you have to find out what these people want first. Once you find that out, then you can tailor-make your agreement with them according to that.
And how do you find it out? Do you straight up ask, or do you also back channel a bit?
Well, we always vet everybody.
Yeah.
That was a lesson learned early on. People have a way of hiding things, and all of a sudden, we have ChatGPT and everything now. So we don't mind if people are just doing like normal stuff, and maybe they have a little hiccup here and there.
Right.
But when we see financial crimes or being investigated by, so then obviously we pull out immediately and just say we're going to go separate directions. But that's super important to do, and especially in this climate right now.
Do you ever back channel in terms of like, hey, do you know this guy? Like, do you know what his
One,
priorities are? Not just
1000%.
like character, but I wonder if it's more about more than money for this person. Maybe they want fame, but they're not saying it, like something like that.
You can kind of smell it,
Yeah.
after a while. You can see what people are looking for just in their verbiage and how they communicate with you, and like the way they communicate with you. How
Yeah.
fast are they getting back to you on phone calls or emails? Like, do they spend a lot of time with you on the phone, or are they more of a yes no kind of person?
Right.
So I take all that into account, and I find out what they want really, and then I will ask around if I know that people know them. Like, what was your experience
Yeah.
working with them? Or I'll talk to the venue, like, hey, how was their last party?
Yeah.
And a lot of times the venue will be like, hey, it was kind of light. And that gives me that, okay, well, hey, maybe this person's saying a lot more than they really can provide.
Right.
And you can't be mad at people. They embellish all the time, but
Yeah.
you just, you got to be on the defense and
Yeah,
make sure that
exactly.
you're doing your due diligence. Yeah.
That's super cool. Okay, so then can you walk us through an actual negotiation, whatever you're comfortable with again? If you want, it could be the new robotics company. You found this guy on Twitter. Then how do you get to the point where you've shaken hands or you've signed a contract together? So my question is, how do you come up with the price and the terms? And you said they take a cut and all of that. Do you let them bring up some sort of budget or preference or all the nitty gritty as much as you can share?
100%. So we ask them to give us all their needs and their wants right away. We don't want to have to just imagine what they want. And it also helps us leverage and figure out like, how can we even provide this thing? Is it worth it? And are we going to be able to do it to our best ability?
Yeah.
So once we get to that point, then we have those discussions. Like I said, there could be a couple phone calls, there could be a couple emails. I'm in negotiations right now for the Masonic next year, and there might be 70 emails, and I haven't even got to an agreement yet.
Yeah.
So, like I said, every contract's sort of different with timing.
Yeah.
Some people, you really want to get them a contract right away because either it's an opportunity that like you can't miss.
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing the Super Bowl next year, so I'm going to be doing some parties, and when that came into my lap, I immediately was like, yeah, let's get the contract and agreement on this. Even if I don't know what's going to happen, I've got months to plan this thing. I know it's going to be a success because we're going to have the Super Bowl players here, and this event's been going on for a long time. So I'm quick to get to contract on stuff like that.
Yeah.
Other stuff, yeah, it could take me a month to get to contract with somebody.
Yeah.
I just need to feel right. They need to feel right. And then once we get to that term, there's also a point of where you can feel like you're doing too much work. At that point, you need to really stop because your gut instinct is right. You probably are putting out more than you're getting back. And at that point, you really want to stop, reassess everything, and then maybe write a letter of intent at that point just to make sure that you're on the same page.
Yeah. So a couple of questions. One is, you said you asked them to share with you their priorities. Are you worried that they will anchor you too high?
We under promise and over deliver.
Yeah.
That's the way I've always ran my businesses. It's an easier way. You don't have to, I'm not sitting here hyping up stuff, and we have receipts for everything. So I keep numbers, I keep logs. We have exactly like how many people come to our events, what the attrition rate is. And so when people see that information and they see like the teasers online, they'll see the past posts, and then they'll really get a sense. We've also created a new website as well, which kind of lists, our part.
You look good.
Yeah.
I guess, for example, I'm trying to picture with the robotics guy is if you open the conversation with, hey, what are you looking for here? What if he's like, I want you to pay me like $1 million. Are you worried that they're going to say some big number that
Nothing scares me at this point. I've got, I was booking for New Year's. I had a bid down on a very big DJ. It was about $500,000. And then his rider came and it was about $800,000. So we had to talk with them and be like, hey, this is unexpected. And they were cool enough, and we sort of split ways on that deal. But yeah, not every deal that comes at you is just going to be sparkling. Like some you just need to know, like, okay, this isn't going to happen. This is way too much. And so I had to put the kibosh on that. But
okay. So you're not worried about them anchoring too high because you're like, if they're going to anchor so high, we don't have a deal.
We don't have a deal. Okay. We don't have the bandwidth for that.
Right.
But what I do is I think, okay, well, if I can't do this, who in my network can? And I always like to keep things in sort of San Francisco, which is why SFVibe was created. So SFVibe is entertainment company. We do parties and stuff like that, but we also make it a point to give back to the community through UCSF Children's Hospital or La Cocina or any of these really cool organizations. And then we really try to book everybody who's from San Francisco or the Bay Area. I feel like that's such an important thing after COVID and after everything that we went through here, and watching the city come back is amazing. Yeah.
What about a situation you had talked about earlier? There's sometimes certain opportunities come your way that for you think, man, I can't pass on this. I definitely need to make this work.
Yeah.
And then let's say you start the discussion with them and what their expectations are or their price or whatever what they can commit to for the partnership is beyond your means, or maybe the number is too high where normally it would have been your walkaway point, but you really want to work it out. What would be your process there, or have you faced situations like that?
100%. So I feel like the first half of my career was like that, where I was constantly changing my pricing according to what I think they could afford, where that's not the real right way to do things, in my opinion, especially for how long I've been doing it. I'm at a point where I'm either free or full price now. And as long as I keep that in my head, I'm happy, because once I start like negotiating and lowering my price, then I get to the event and all of a sudden the event's more work than I thought I was going to be, and now I've lowered the price and their expectations through the roof, and so we're just not on an evil playing field, and I'd leave resentful of the event. And actually that could have been something that could have been stopped ahead of time.
That's so interesting. So you're saying you have a specific price and you're like either that or free, you said, because you're doing it for other reasons.
Yeah, exactly. So I'll be doing something for another reason, you know. So I work for Elon Musk, I work for Peter Thiel, I work for Gavin Newsom, I work for a lot of these high level folks here in California. I take these gigs. I could care less what they're going to pay me. I could care less what the agreement says. I know what they're hiring me for. I know I'm going to deliver. I feel like those resume builders, even though I have to sign NDAs and can't say where the event is or what the event's about or any of that sort of stuff, I feel like just internally.
But can you just tell us right now?
I've done parties for Tesla and Neuralink, and I've done all the governor and lieutenant governor parties. I was around for the PayPal explosion, so I DJ'd for everybody from the PayPal team, from Peter to Ken Howery and all these guys. So just being in San Francisco, right time, right place, and just being connected through all these little circuits. Yeah. One thing that I can share too is if you're aiming for the big dogs, like if you're aiming for the top of the food chain sort of things, those people tend to copy each other. And it's not because they're trying to be like each other. There's a trust circle that happens when you get so high. And so that's been also a blessing as a DJ, is once you kind of get your foot into one door, that can lead to all these other sort of events, because those people tend to follow what the...
Yeah, they're like, Peter is like, Elon worked with David, so I'll just work with David.
1000%.
Okay, I see.
So I, because I DJ'd for Peter, I got to DJ all these other events.
That's
for
very cool.
DocuSign and all these different companies and stuff like that.
So I'm fascinated that you said you have a specific price, because, for example, I mean, you are working with big names in all the ways, but I assume like the Giants has a different budget from, I don't know, Temple versus the Warriors.
Yeah. See, I don't look at any of that as a financial gain, because it's no money. It's really no money. All of that is foot in the door, exposure, and I enjoy doing it.
Yeah, and you enjoy it.
I love doing it. It's like I tried to look for something different during COVID because there was no business, but I just kept going back to DJing. So, maybe I'm past my years in DJ years and I should be focusing more on the management side, but
no, you're doing amazing. We've heard you DJ.
I can't get away from it.
I'm trying to keep track of everything you're doing. You have SFVibe, which is events.
Yeah, I'm the CEO of SFVibe.
Okay, and it has a newsletter.
So we have a newsletter of 90,000 people. It goes out every Wednesday.
Yeah.
We offer free tickets. We offer discounts. We offer expedited entry, and then we showcase our friends' events. We showcase our events, and then we create a calendar for everybody just of what's going on during the week.
And you also throw events through SFVibe?
Through SFVibe.
Okay, so that's one thing you're doing. Then you also DJ as you.
As me, yep.
And then you're also Founders Bay. Are you involved with that?
I'm a partner in Founders Bay.
Okay, is that the one that's doing the Giga Party?
So SFVibe and Founders Bay are doing both. Yeah.
So there's like 3 things you're doing. What else?
I have a house music group called White Noise.
Wow.
So I've been producing house music for the last 10 years, maybe longer.
What's your SoundCloud? Or are you on
White Noise? Yeah, it's White and then Noize. You can find me on Spotify or SoundCloud or whatever. Probably put out 100 songs over the last decade on so many different labels. And yeah, I spent a lot of time in the studio alone, and it was it was a fun time. It was great. I don't think I'm into making the music like I was before because it's so time consuming.
Yeah.
But it's such a great passion of mine, and it was such a fun experience. And so putting out those songs led me to be able to play like Ultra Music Festival and Coachella and Outside Lands and travel to Europe.
You've played at these, you said?
Yeah, I played Ultra Music 5 times.
Wow,
Coachella.
in Miami, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then Coachella, I did 6 years. I got to play on the Sahara tent stage 1 year.
I did not know that. I always learn something new whenever I hang out with David.
With you, you just casually mentioned some fun fact. We're like, what?
I did Outside Lands, Firefly Festival. Yeah, and so there was a time period for about 10 years where I was traveling a lot, playing a lot of house music and just following my passion. But financially, that wasn't the move. But sometimes to do what you love, you've got to give up things. So
you don't make money as a DJ is what I tell my co-founder all the time, and my husband.
Yeah, and that's our lived experience as well.
I mean, I'll tell you, like, there's the 0.1% that actually make it. Those people always have giant teams behind them. So I want everybody to know in this DJ world that there's not one person, there might be an anomaly out there, but there's not one person who's doing very, very successful that doesn't have a giant team behind them.
Like for social media, for PR and everything.
PR, social, getting them into events, making sure that all of their ducks are in order, their finances are in order.
Negotiate their contracts.
Negotiate their contracts, so there's always a team behind this. It's not just one solo person who puts out a song and now they're famous and they're traveling around the world. Usually those guys have 40 to 50 people. I mean, Tiesto has a team of, I think, 200 people. Yeah.
Wow. And just taking a side quest more into the DJ side, for those artists, do they assemble that team over time as they grow bigger, or do they just sign with an agency that then provides all of those people and support?
There's two different ways. If you put out a hot song and the song ends up just going around the world, you're going to be contacted by agencies. And that's the best way to leverage. You never want to reach out just blindly to any record labels or agencies. They will ignore you immediately.
This is very relevant to negotiations.
Yeah.
Like, just by you reaching out, you're already giving away your leverage. We're like, I'm desperate to have this.
Not only are you desperate, but most people use filters. And if you have the word promo in there, it goes directly to their trash. Just because the famous DJs get hundreds and hundreds of songs a day. So they usually have somebody at the record label actually go through them, filter out the ones, send it to the DJ. Then they make the final choice. But as a young producer, I would do that, and I would just blindly hit up 50 people and no response from anybody. It wasn't until I actually met somebody who introduced me to somebody, and sort of that way. So the internet's great, social media is great. Nothing in the world beats word of mouth.
Right.
Yeah.
There's two takeaways from what you just said that are very, very relevant to our audience. One is in terms of founders. When founders fundraise, there's a similar dynamic chasing the VCs and pitching to them versus having the VCs hear about you through other ways. Oh, this person is building something very cool, and they reach out to you like that already.
That is how the world works.
Right.
It rarely ever works where you just approach a person and they're like, come on in.
Right.
That just doesn't happen. So these blind emails and stuff like that is a big waste of time, in my opinion. You'd be more better off focusing on maybe the head of a label and a label that has your sound on it, and build a relationship with this person. Maybe tell them, hey, I'm a record producer. Look, I'm not trying to throw any music at you, and I don't want to get signed. I just want to figure out what are the procedures? What do I have to do? Ask mentoring questions. People love to answer these questions. You think that they don't, but it's their life and it's their world, and they're almost proud to share this information with you. So ask questions,
That's such a great tip. I was very hesitant moving here from Albania, which is a very hierarchical culture. I didn't have mentors throughout my career until very recently because I didn't want to bother them. I would literally be like, I don't want to bother this person. But people would offer to help. I'm like, no, like you're not getting anything out of, I can't give anything back to you. You're so far ahead in your career. But now I get it. I love mentoring other people, even if I obviously don't get anything out of it, like
Yeah.
directly. Yeah.
It's just something inside of us.
Yeah.
We're built to share, you know,
Yeah.
as cavemen, we shared stories and we've always shared history, and it's just part of what we do as human beings. We love to share. And then if you're good at something, it's wonderful to pass the baton and educate other people on how to do that thing too. It's self-fulfilling, but it also like keeps the vibe going. And also teaching somebody how to do something right. So if we were to compare that to like Silicon Valley, for example, I had a friend who used to throw dinner parties, and he would invite a lot of young executives, 22, 23, maybe they're the CEO of a new startup or something, and he would teach etiquette courses. You know, what happens when you come into $5 million, $10 million, and you're 23 years old? Do you buy the Lamborghini and the cars for your mom and the house for your dad, or do you like take that money and try to create generational wealth and try to really, there's different ways of doing things obviously, but I think within negotiations, ask questions, like really just find out, like I said, people are willing to talk, you know, if you can get them on the phone, if you can get them for 5 minutes, I think starting with somebody if you're trying to put out music, start, you know, with somebody at the record label, get in with them. Same in the sort of Silicon Valley world, you know, it's like build those relationships, go to these little mixers, go to these little cocktail things, meet people, you know, don't bring up money right away. That just pushes everybody away because everybody's looking for money. So like find a common place where you guys can sort of talk about things and then sort of expand.
I love that you said people love to talk, because one of the biggest ways in which we help our clients is we tell them, do not overshare. If they're job searching, they tell the recruiter, they show all their hands. This is how much I made at my last job. This is my preferred salary. I'm like, oh my gosh, don't say any of that. And the second takeaway from what you said earlier is that basically in terms of finding intros for job seekers, they need to ideally, instead of just applying online blindly, just have people refer you to companies who already work there and refer you internally. I know you're a community member of Frontier Tower, right? Which is they call themselves a 16-floor village, vertical village, super cool community space in San Francisco. I was there and gave a talk on a recruiting night, and I was talking to these super talented engineers, and they're like, we're applying, but we're not finding jobs. Don't apply blindly. You have to find internal referrals.
Yeah, because I mean, especially with AI and everything these days, like I doubt your resume is even getting to a human being until it goes through 3 channels.
Agree.
So it's, you really got to play the game. And right now, as AI builds and there's distrust for computers, I feel like the interview process is going to get even crazier. You're not going to want to interview with a robot on there. People are going to want to do in-person meetings. I think in-person meetings, in-person events, in-person interviews are going to become more and more relevant as we distrust AI more until we come up with sort of a fingerprint or signature system with it. But I think the next 3 or 4 years we're going to be meeting in person a lot more.
I'm so glad you said that, because I was about to ask you, how top of mind is it for you as you're doing negotiations to go and meet people in person? The robotics guy from X, like, I don't know where he lives, but whoever you've been negotiating with, do you try to get in person?
Depends on the deal. So with my agency, for example, we do weddings and corporate events. It's not really necessary to go meet everybody. It's just sort of a turnkey operation that we've been doing for so long that we do Zoom calls, and that's enough. You know, they've already heard about us. We don't do any advertising. It's all word of mouth. So we're already sold to the customer. There's no selling that goes on. It's more of a discussion about what your needs are. You know, are we the right fit for you? You know, adding enhancements, just all that kind of discussion, less than a sales call. So again, getting the word of mouth thing, you know, I haven't put advertising in my company for 15 years. We haven't spent $1. It's all been just word of mouth. And it's actually the best way to do things, if you ask me. It saves you so much time. It saves you so much effort. You're not having to repeat your story to everybody. Let everybody else do that. You know?
For you.
For you, exactly. And then make sure you have a great online presence. Like, you know, I know people really look at that stuff. You know, if you're not on social or you don't have a following, either you're way big and you don't need it, or you're just not paying attention to that and you're losing a lot of options. Just at least try, at least, you know, once a week, put something up on the socials, you know, even. And what I find is giving advice or sort of talking to people instead of asking for things on social media will get you 100 times the engagement.
Right. Not like, here's who I am, but rather, here are some tips on,
like, oh, I'm looking for this gig. Who's got, you know, that won't work. That just doesn't, people don't act like that.
Yeah, such good learnings. If you're willing to share, you mentioned you were in negotiations with a big artist. You can just pick one if you don't mind walking us through that, because, you know, Alex is a DJ and we're so curious how those negotiations work. I think you mentioned one that kind of fell through. You offered 500. They're like, okay. They're like, no, we want 800K. How did you come up with 500K? Why not 400? Why not 600K? Anyway, I'll let Alex own this part because he's deeper in the industry.
I think I want to start with the pitfalls of booking somebody big. So there's a whole world out there that wants to be the middleman in between these bookings, and it's not the initial booker, or it's not the person at the company. You have companies like Wasserman, which is probably the biggest booking company in the United States right now. There are companies that will put themselves on the internet, make themselves look like they're the booking agency, and what they're really doing is just contacting Wasserman. And so there are thousands of those sites. You can, like, let's say if you search online, I want to book David Guetta, you'll have 10, 20, 30 different websites that say, we can book David Guetta. They're really just calling Wasserman, and because they have a contact into the thing. So if you're really trying to book somebody, you go straight to the top. And you find that straight to the top. And whether that's going through LinkedIn, reverse searching on Instagram, finding a post where you see the performer with his manager, finding the manager's @sign, finding his email on LinkedIn, emailing him. You really want to go straight to the top. Otherwise, and agencies themselves even have this where they'll put 3 or 4 people in front of you before you can even, like, I tried to book Paris Hilton last year and I had to talk to like 6 different people before I could even get to her manager. That's not how I like to do business. Big waste of time. I see what they're doing. Everybody wants a piece, you know, especially on these giant ones. So I've been building relationships with these agencies over the years. Now I know a guy who was an agent is now the vice president of the company, so I lucked out on that, whereas I can talk directly to the vice president. He gives me a list of all the artists. I pick my range of what I want to pay, and then we negotiate from there. So they'll give you sort of a roundabout number. Like, they're not just like, how much do you want to pay? Some people do. Like, if you try to book like Swedish House Mafia, they're like, how much you got? You know, because they can. But most of the time they'll say like, okay, we have these 10 artists available on the date. They range from 100,000 to 200,000, and that really depends on like what your needs are for them. Do you want them to stick around for a meet and greet? Do you want them to be there early to sound check? Do you need their team to come in, do audio visual? There's all these little things that sort of are between that $100,000 and $200,000 price. So you need to find out all that stuff, get the number, digest it, look at your tickets. Okay, and my ticket's going to cover this, or my sponsor's going to cover this, and then you go ahead and you can go forward with the deal if it makes sense.
And have you ever had cases where you are trying to negotiate them down from the range that they gave you?
Every time.
And then so then yeah, good. That was a test.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so how does that conversation actually look like? Like, what do you say? What are the typical responses, and how do you try to get them to be within your means?
I'd say anybody under $50,000 is a lot easier to deal with. I think that's a straight shot. You kind of just talk to one person, you go back and forth about some stuff. When you tend to get a couple $100,000 or more, you tend to have to fill out these forms, and they want to know all the information. So they want to know what your anticipated ticket sales are going to be, how much you're selling tickets for, how many people can fit inside. They want all the information because they can, which is information you really don't want to be giving out because that's your IP, that's like your party. But they know, and they want a piece of the action always, and that's usually a percentage.
Yeah. Have you ever not shared that info? Just like, oh, let me check.
You can't. They send you a form, and you fill it out, and it goes right back to the person. They won't even talk to you.
Okay. They will not talk to you.
Not on the big level of things.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No, they want to know, like, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
They want to know everything because you can imagine how many emails a day they get to book Skrillex, Dead Mouse, or whatever, and 99% of them is like some kid, and he's trying to throw a party in Wisconsin, and he doesn't know where he's going to come up with the money. So they get a lot of that. They have to filter all that out. So as an agent, I understand that. Luckily, I don't have that problem because we have the word of mouth. But like, if you're just an open book and people see you on TV and they're trying to book you, like they're getting hundreds of emails. Oh, we want him and so. Can he donate this? Can he give money? Can he come play? So they can't deal with that's just too much nonsense. Yeah. So again, going straight to the top, getting to the person that's the closest to the artist is super important.
Yeah, I'm hearing a theme across all of your work, which is relationships and relationship building. But something I think we've said in our podcast before is to dig the well before you're thirsty.
Mm-hmm.
And so for your entire career, you've been building these relationships, maintaining them, and in maybe some of those relationships, like the one that you had said, where you got to know an agent and you worked with them, and you maintained that relationship over a long period of time. Now they're the VP of an agency, and now you're playing with at a whole nother tier of working with artists. So I think that's really cool to hear that this is a common theme that you've stuck to throughout your entire career.
Yeah, I think because I've done this so long and because I've gone through so many different bubbles of tech here in San Francisco and have seen the ups and downs of the club life, and because have been in the wedding world for so long, I've DJ'd Christina Aguilera's wedding and a bunch of other crazy weddings. So.
New David fact that we just...
So we'll have to have you over on a regular cadence so we get new facts from you.
But I've been deeply into the wedding scene for a long time. It's been a great business for us. But because I've been willing to do the weddings and the corporate events for the last 20 years, it's given me an edge, I feel like, compared to a lot of DJs who just strictly want to play their house music and they want to go out, or they're strictly hip hop DJ and they won't take any other gigs. I'll take a 60s gig and play 5 hours of 60s music. I'll take an electronic gig and play 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. at tech house. I'll take the hip hop gig at a local school. You know what I mean? So I literally take these gigs not only because it's part of my job, but also because I learn at every single one. So a lot of DJs, they're afraid. They don't want to, do the weddings because, oh, you're a wedding DJ and blah, blah, blah. I'm super happy that I was a wedding DJ for so long. I'm super happy my wedding company exists. We do hundreds of weddings a year. We make people's lives happy. And I learned so much about music through each of these because I get playlists from everybody, music I've never heard in my life. All of a sudden I play it. I watch the dance floor go crazy. Boom, that goes into the library. So times that by 20 years, building the relationships and just sort of like rinse and repeat.
Yeah, you seem very low ego. I love that. Okay, cool. So it sounds like, just going back to the previous story, if you go to a big artist through an agency, the agency, it sounds like they have a budget range. They're, let's say, 100 to 200. However, you were mentioning a story where you went to an artist with a number. You're like, can they do 500K? How did you come up with that number? Did you do research, or was that the top of your budget? Or?
Yeah, so I definitely do research. I know the top promoters in San Francisco, and they've been booking DJs for a long time. So I definitely inquire with them, like, hey, is this a good price? What have you paid before? What do you see? Have you done a party with this person? What were the numbers like? I'll definitely do my sort of homework beforehand. Then I'll have an idea, and then I'll see what they come at me with. If it's super exorbitant than what I've heard from my friends, I try not to even deal with it because we're just too far apart. If it's somewhere close around what they said, then we can start the negotiations. But if my friends tell me they paid 250 and these guys charge me 500, I immediately just cut.
Yeah,
that's just
too greedy.
Done.
Okay.
Too greedy.
And then let's say you're close. They want 250, you want 200. What does that look like? What do you say? Is it over email? Is it in person? Is it Zoom call? And then what arguments do you use?
I think my main argument is this isn't my money, and that
depersonalize the thing.
Exactly. Always putting yourself putting somebody between yourself and the money is the smartest thing I think I ever did. It was hiring a full-time manager about 10 years ago that really changed my life. It also changed the course of my career, and it also increased my income.
Wow. Oh,
because
okay. So you have
people,
a manager, you said,
yeah,
or when you
so
were a DJ?
no, I have a full-time manager that works for Boutique. She
Okay.
runs the company. She handles phone calls,
Is
deals.
boutique another one of your things you're
I have an agency in San Francisco called Boutique DJs.
okay?
Yeah, and so we've got a large crew, and they're strictly for private events and stuff. Like we just booked Dreamforce. I'm gonna do 140 hours of DJ bookings, and I'll bring in like 6 DJs, and we'll play all week. And so I have that crew going on, and it's mainly club DJs that really understand customer service. So I know 5,000 DJs. I really only will book 20 of them for these kind of events because they're
Professionalism
just well
and
rounded. Yeah.
read the room.
Yeah.
Where we go. Okay.
Music is less important than it was 20 years ago too, because everybody has access to it now. So I much would rather hire somebody who's incredibly good with customer service, is great at events, is smiling, is just happy to be there, doesn't confront any guest or has any confrontations or
Yeah.
anything like that, can handle people who are drinking, won't drink on the job. There's just all these little things that have to equal up, and not a lot of DJs can fill that cup. So once you find those people, you stick with them. And I've grown with some of my DJs have been with me for 15
That's
years.
wonderful.
But yeah, I feel just, that's the
Yeah,
way to kind
that's
of we
super
run
cool.
things.
Okay, cool. So your argument was one of the main ones is that you're like, this is not my money, right?
It's not my money, and I'm the good cop a lot of times.
Right.
So I'll open negotiations. I'll talk about the money that we have available. I'll ask for, okay, look, we have $150,000. Who in this range can you possibly send to me?
Right.
The agent will always send you $200,000
Right. Of
and
course.
more. They're always trying to up it, and you're always trying to down it.
Yeah.
You got to stick to your guns.
Yeah.
You have to let them know that this is what we have. What can we get for this? Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes they're just like, okay, I can't push these people around anymore, and
Yeah.
they'll let it go. Sometimes they'll come back with like, hey, well, we can do this for this price, but he's not going to stick around for the meet and greet and stuff like
Okay.
that. And then at that point, you have to be like, okay, well, is the value worth it? And sort of go that. And then if not, you just go another direction.
Yeah.
There's a lot of talent out there in
Yeah.
the world. Yeah.
Okay. So is there ever that you're like, I want 150K type of artist. They show you the 200K and you're like, well, can we bring it down? And then you say it's not my money, but and then they're like, okay, fine, this person will do it for 150K, even though they like, does that happen, or they just give you someone who was already at 150K?
Yeah, that usually happens, but I'll have somebody in the middle of that. So once I get up to the negotiation part, I always stop it. I never talk about money on the phone. I immediately get something in writing. I send it over to them so they can process it. I feel like it's good for both people. Let them process what you said price wise, and let
So
them
put a
figure it
bit
out.
of a pause, right?
You have to,
love
because
that.
you don't want to answer yes or no to anything immediately.
Yes, exactly. We say this. Do not say yes or no to a deal. Do not negotiate immediately.
Never.
Yeah.
Just put it on pause. I just, tell the person, this looks great.
Yeah.
Let me go over this with my team. Even if you don't have a team,
Right.
let me talk to my manager. Even if you don't have a manager,
Yes.
fake it till you make it. At that point, nobody cares. It's just as long as you're getting back to people and you're on your, your point, and you do people right and you do a good job. Just do what you got to do in order to get to that point. It's not hurting anybody. But yeah, putting somebody in the middle of you and negotiations when it comes to collecting money, super important.
Yeah, that reminds me. Well, first of all, it's such an important concept to reference other stakeholders who are not in that immediate discussion.
Have
So
to.
with our clients and for job seekers, we recommend, hey, yeah, let me get back to you on this. I want to talk about this with my family, my mentors, whomever. What you said also reminded me of these artist friends that Garrett and I have. They're pretty big. You definitely know them. But we were chatting with them, and something that they do we thought was so smart. So they currently manage everything themselves, and they've gotten to a very, very pretty high level. But they told us that they have a manager who doesn't exist, but they have a separate email address.
Absolutely.
And when they talk to venues, promoters, they have them go through that email address. And manager is Carl or something, right? They just gave this manager a name. They are the ones who are managing that inbox, and they're the ones responding.
I'm going to say 9 out of 10 artists are probably doing that.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
This is very common.
Because the financials don't make sense unless you hit a certain point, right? So if you're making $100,000 a year as a DJ, you can't afford a manager. You can't afford a booking manager. You definitely can't afford the other 20 people that you need for PR and advertising and stuff like that, right? So you have to hit a sort of like an amount, right? Whatever that amount is, in order to be able to share the pie. Otherwise, you're not going to have any pie, and you're going to be working for free, and a bunch of people are going to be collecting on your gigs. So that's why this manager is super important, not only because it puts a barrier in between you and the client, and it creates the effect that they don't really negotiate with the middle person like they will negotiate with you. They won't ask the same questions. They won't put you on the spot. And that person who you put in the middle will never answer immediately. They'll always have to come back and check with you. So just having that process alone probably raised our income 25% on the company.
Wow, that's amazing.
Maybe more. So, you know, we went from charging, you know, X amount of dollars, and then now we can get another $500 to $1,000 because we have a person who's just dealing with the money.
But you have a real person, or
No, this is actually, she exists, and we've had her for 12 years full time, and we've actually had a couple different people, but yeah, it's super important.
That's super cool.
And just somebody to get back to your emails immediately. I can't stress the importance of getting back to people fast. I would say 2 or 3 times a day I get an email saying thank you for the quick response. I love that more than anything, because it shows me that nobody's out there doing that. For people to take, they're only writing me 2 sentences and one of them says thank you for your quick response. It means the world to them, right? Because people have stuff to do. People don't do things like sporadically. They maybe have these 2 hours to work on this project. They send you something, then they're out of the office for another week and you don't hear back from them. You got to get back to people immediately, even if that requires an AI response that's saying, hey, I got your email. I'll get back to you in 24 hours. Here's a link to some of my stuff. If you're really interested, fill out this link on what your requirements are. Really,
even if it's clearly automated, you're saying?
Clearly automated.
Oh, okay.
In fact, 80% of my company's automated, and it's taken me 10 years to do that. I started using like the early on sort of stuff.
That.
Exactly. And I would just connect my Google Sheets to my email. And then as time went on, we figured out processes, and now almost all of it's automated, which is actually better. And then we have a human come in for the human touch. So any phone calls are all human. Any really important questions or the final contract is all human. But any of the back and forth, the frequently asked questions, just like the response and stuff like that, all gets done through AI, all gets done through CRM systems and stuff. And the reason why I like that, it's not because we're lazy. It's because we have so much information coming in. It's efficient, and you're getting the right information. You're not having to copy and paste or write things in, and things could get really messy at that point. You miss 1 digit wrong on an address, I'm at the wrong place for an event.
Right.
Like stuff like that. So the information comes from the client. It gets embedded into our database. We don't touch it. That's the information you gave us. This is the information we're going to use. And so that also saved a lot of headache over the years as well.
I love this point because it I guess ties back to the importance of relationships and how you respond quickly and you show a lot of professionalism. So all that is wonderful. I wanted to go back to our friends who have a fake manager.
I love that.
There's several reasons why that's so beneficial to them. One is that it makes them seem like they have a manager, which already elevates your profile. And like you said, the economics might not make sense. So maybe people deduce that if you have a manager, you are more successful than you actually are.
Absolutely.
And the second part is that they can play good cop themselves, and the manager can be the fake manager can be the bad cop.
100%.
And they actually said that. They're like, we don't want to seem like divas, but they've had cases where they're about to go perform at a show and they hadn't been paid yet. And they had the fake manager be like, hey, by the way, the artist has not been paid yet. Can you send that over before they start performing? Instead of the artist saying it themselves, and where it might slightly hurt the relationship.
On that note, It took me many years to figure this out. So
Yeah.
I hope I'm sharing this and people will immediately change what they're doing. When you're going to contract, you get 50% upfront immediately with that contract.
Like
There's
when you sign.
unnegotiable.
Oh,
Okay.
not before the event, but right after you sign.
Right the second that you send over that signed contract, you're sending 50% deposit. That's locking the DJ down on that date. That is a non-refundable deposit because we're holding that date. And if somebody else calls, we have to tell them, no, the DJ
Right.
can't perform. You've been held on that date. And then we miss that money out. And then that person, so we need to collect that money.
Love that.
That money goes in the bank. It's an early payment. It actually helps out if you're a DJ because feast and famine.
Right.
So like January, February, you're not working as much. So deposits can really help out with your finances and just keeping your business afloat. And then you always get paid 30 days ahead of time. And I know that sounds like maybe people aren't doing that or sounds crazy. I've never had a person complain about paying 30 days early.
You mean fully?
Fully
paid.
So your
Wow.
second half of your deposit comes in 30 days prior.
Wow.
There's an automatic notice that goes out for the first payment. Automatic one goes out. We offer 3 different prices. This is another huge tip. Never eat the 3%. Okay. So you want to offer the client 3 different prices. You want to offer them the price that it would be pre-tax, the post-tax, and then what it would look like with the 3% fee added on top of it.
The stripe fee.
So you allow them to choose how they want to pay you. If they want to wire you, if they want to pay a check, it's a lot cheaper. If they want to use their credit card and get points, or they're using the company's credit card, they've got to eat the 3%. We're not going to eat it.
Right.
You're doing a $100,000 thing. 3% is a lot of money.
$3,000. Yeah.
So we just, and that took me years to figure out too. So, one year I looked at the end of the year and we paid $6,000 in credit card fees, and it was just on, and I'm like, this isn't going to happen again. So
Never again.
So the clients will sometimes push back, and that's fine. Just say, well, you have 2 other options. You can send me a check for free, or you can wire the money for $25 to my bank. And so that gives them the power of choice.
Yeah. Even though, sometimes you want to give 3 options and people don't realize that there might be other options beyond that, but they look more narrowly. And for 100%. You, it's either of these works for me. Yeah.
And then on the pricing tip, one more tip is always have an anchor price. And what I mean by that is always have something that's sort of untouchable. The diamond package, if you want to call it that, or just whatever you have times 10, and make it a big fee. If you're used to charging, let's say $1,000, have that one be $3,000. You're not going to expect anybody to take that. What you're doing,
but when you present it, they're like, "Oh, we're definitely not going to do the 3,000. So now 1,000 sounds better."
Sounds amazing.
Okay.
It sounds 33% of what they're really trying to charge, And in essence, like, we're still going to be at the event. It would be great to get that money, but we're counting on just the $1,000, let's say, right? So no harm, no foul. It's a win-win situation. You're really just playing with psychological stuff at that point.
Love it. Where did you learn this one? Or just experience?
Time. Yeah, just experience, And also, I've had some great people around me over the years, So,
mentors.
I just take bits and pieces of things that I like and implement them as they come.
Yeah.
So.
They've done studies on this one. And this is definitely effective for sure. Cool. Any final thoughts, Alex?
Yeah, actually, David, if you have any final thoughts for our audience, whether, around negotiations or, maybe any interesting negotiation or wild story that you have had in your business.
Boy, every negotiation's so different and crazy. I was at the Chase Center yesterday, for example. They had asked me to DJ these things, and we never even talked about a contract. I just agreed right on the spot. Like, I didn't even need to send a contract. They could literally probably send me a contract for next to nothing, and I would still sign. Yeah. When it comes to something that I really want, I try to just, step back a little bit and not mess up the waters and, send me it. If I completely disagree with it, I might say something, but I already know in my head, like I said, I'm either free or full price. So this is more on the free side of things. If they give me money, in my mind, it's a bonus. But I'm doing it because I want to be there. I want the exposure. I want this on my resume. And I'm willing to take a cut on the negotiations in order to do that. If it's something I really don't want to do, but the money is incredible, then I will stick to my guns. I'll make sure I get the price that I'm looking for. And I really try not to falter because, like I said, people talk to people in the word of mouth game. They talk about prices. And then all of a sudden, if you charge person A $3,500 and you charge person B $2,500 and they're friends, it just gets messy. And
interesting.
it really does, because
even if it's different events, different priorities,
people don't look at it like that because they don't see what's on the background. They see a DJ shows up, plays pre-recorded music, and leaves. They don't see the lead up. They don't see all that stuff. So in their mind, they're like, well, he did the same exact thing as he did for us. Like, you know, you just don't want to put yourself in those situations. You might not even hear about it from these people, but now they have that in their mind. And now you're off the checklist of being invited to other events that that person could have referred you to.
That is so interesting. Yeah, because every gig is different. What if you have to drive, 5 hours to get there? And there's so many.
You can't even explain that to anybody.
Yeah.
And I don't even try. So for me, it's just less effort. It's just be above board, charge what you should charge. Don't try to like be greedy if you think you can. Don't look at somebody's name and see that they're super rich and try to overcharge them. Just really be consistent in what you do, because the world will know, especially now with the internet and people talking, and there's so many different ways to communicate. Create a force field around yourself by doing the right thing.
Wow, that's a great note to end.
Yeah, integrity first, right?
Integrity first.
I think that's probably why you have been so successful over decades with SFVibe and everything that you do. And how can people find out about you?
Yeah,
on your website or your newsletter?
Yeah, you can just search David Carvalho. There's an H in there. It's Carvalho. It'll bring up all my websites and stuff. If you want to reach out to me and you find any of this is useful to you who's listening to the podcast, I can be reached at david@foundersbay.com. You can ask me any sort of questions or whatever. And I'm really happy you guys had me here today. This is amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we will be seeing you Friday for the third Tech Giga Party with the world's first robot UFC fight.
We're on track to be sold out this weekend, which is amazing. We're going to have the first VR-controlled robots in the world, which are basically moved by movements of the players, of the fighters that are human beings, and then the robots emulate what they do. And
awesome.
Well, we're living in the future. They can punch, they can grapple, they spring up on their feet quicker than a human being, which is absolutely scary. But they can DJ. We're trying to put a fun light on the robotics thing, because it is some of the scary thing, like AI is. We don't know where these big, powerful things are going to go and what they're going to do. But I think educating people on the good side of these things, and like it's a tool like anything. A hammer can build a house or it can break one, and so it's like, I think how you use these things. So if you use AI and robotics and all this text in a positive and good way, I think it's going to be a game changer for you in your life.
Yeah, we agree. Awesome. And what's your DJ name? Like at Coachella and Ultra, like what was your DJ name?
White Noise was the name I used. Yeah, one word. It says we got a Z in there. And then I've just been DJ David Carvalho. I come from the age where there were no DJ names. You just called yourself your name. And then, all these DJ names started to pop up over the years.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, David, for spending time with us. And it was really fun to learn new facts about you, like we do every time we hang out.
Right on. I'd love to be back. And thank you both for having me. Yeah. Awesome.